Hey everybody, welcome back. Finally, the day has come where my Z9 has arrived. I've been waiting for about 44 days. Got through NPS, felt like eternity. I know other people probably wait a lot longer that don't have NPS, but I picked up the Z9 and the FTZ2 adapter. So we'll just go right into it, unbox this and see what it comes with. So we'll just start with the little bit of accessories that comes with it real quick. Has these little clamps. I guess you can use it to keep relief off your HDMI cables, USB cables going to the camera. For me, not much of a use. You got the stock Nikon Z9 camera strap, kind of useless, no interest in that. Make a good cat toy. And then we have the battery. Look at this thing. Freaking battery is massive. It's like twice the size of the previous Z camera, the Z7 II that I had. It's bananas. We got we got one end of the charger here, it looks like. Yeah, we got the other end of the charger. USB-C, I guess you can just plug it right into there. Oh, yep. Fits together kind of nice for traveling. Looks like you can also charge the camera with this. If you have a D series or the newest version of the EN-EL18, you can charge it in camera with this charger as well. That's pretty cool. But you'd need a second charger if you want to charge the camera and the charger at the same time, since it takes the same cord. So kind of annoying on that, but you know, premium products, premium prices. Got the manuals for everything. Highly suggest that you read your user manual. Don't be asking questions that can be answered in 5 seconds looking through your manual. Then we have the camera itself. This thing is freaking thick. Thick. Get that box out of the way. And that feels perfect in my hands. Vertical grip feels just as good as the normal grip. Got your tripod socket, whatever you want to call it, on the bottom. Little rubber grippies on the feet. The card door has a little switch you have to pull down and then pull back on. Won't be no accidental opening that, like on this Z7 II where you go like this and it flies open. Don't got to worry about that. Got your ports on your front for your external control. Got your side ports here, full size HDMI, that's pretty badass. USB-C for charging and control. Got your microphone in, 3.5, headphone out. Got an Ethernet port. Got your lock on this side, Kensington lock. All these covers feel really nice and robust. I know I'm not to worry about anything like that, nothing damaging it, to be honest. Not a huge fan of the screen, to be honest. I mean, yeah, it flips out, flips down, kind of. Then it kind of flips like this. So if you're doing portraits, pretty neat, I suppose. Not really my jam, to be honest, but it's a thing. But I don't really care that the screen moves. I mean, some macro, pull it out, bend it down when you're going down low, sure. Other than that, it's cool, you know, it's whatever. Not my thing. So to put the battery in, got this little tab pull up, twist it, pull the door off. And to get that to clip in there, you gotta actually attach the battery door to the battery. Just line up those two little ears. And there's a little thing on the bottom here, clips into the bottom of the door slide it in, pops in, and it becomes one piece, one item. Then you just take it, put it in there, just the way you took it off. Now you're powered and ready to go. One of the cool things about this camera is there's no mechanical shutter. So we'll just take the front cap off. You see what looks like a shutter, that's really not. It's just a blast door, blast shield, whatever you want to call it. Keeps debris and stuff from getting on your sensor. Opens real quick. And you're ready to shoot instantly. Close it, return the camera off, closes it. Very quick. And what I really like about it is, as soon as you turn it on, ready to take pictures. No delay, you don't have to wait for the camera to boot up, nothing. Very cool, so good. With the Z7 II, you had to wait a few seconds, really not that long, maybe half a second to a second for it to boot up and be ready, have your EVF to show up and everything. Not on this thing. It's a speed demon to say the least. You have your hot shoe per usual, your diopter dial, your button on the side of the viewfinder so you can change it to the EVF, the back screen, hybrid, switch between automatically. And if you can see, there's a little black button right here. That's just so you can replace the eyepiece. On top, you have your stereotypical ISO, record, exposure compensation, your on off and your shutter, and also, can't see it right now, but you do have backside illuminated buttons on the whole camera. Super cool. I really missed that on the Z7 II. On the front of the camera, you got 3 function buttons, programmable to whatever you would like them to be. Your lens release, your vertical controls over here. You can lock this so that if you're walking around or it moves in the car, shifts around, and it's sitting like this, rolls over for whatever reason in your car, and you have it locked, won't take any pictures. If you have it unlocked and it bumps that, it's going to start taking pictures. So kind of a pain to dig through pictures when you're shooting 20 frames per second of the back of your seat when the camera's just rolling around, especially if you forget to turn the camera off. So for the other side, we'll switch over. You have a button right here. You can use this to control your autofocus settings for continuous, single, manual, cycle through all your different types of autofocus and everything. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of that, so I mapped my record button in photo mode so I can press and hold the record button and then I can cycle through the autofocus settings with the front and back dials. Especially when you're using long lenses, you don't really have time to take your hand off the lens, put it on the back of the body on the left side, and then change your settings that way. It's kind of a pain, so not a big fan of that myself. Real quick, across the bottom of the camera here, you have your microphone button, change your microphone settings, your quality for if you want to shoot JPEG, RAW at a quick glance. Then you have your white balance, you can change that to custom or whatever white balance you want. Same thing in video. You have a back microphone. You have your information button here. Then you also have your display at the top. And this is really cool. You have a little dial here to switch between phone and video real quick. You don't have to worry about the camera changing, reloading menus or anything. It's very instant switching, no real delay. You have your back button focus on top. Your joystick to select or change your autofocus point location. Another info button here. This accesses your custom My Menu for photo and video. Super helpful to put whatever you want into that. That way you don't have to hunt through menus and things you don't want to assign to a function button can go on this. Make your life so much easier and faster to cycle through. And whenever you look through the viewfinder, it also, of course, mimics this into the viewfinder. So you don't have to take your eyes off the viewfinder to look at your back screen to change anything in your My Menu, or any menu for that instance. It's all projected in the EVF. Super awesome. And you have your magnification, if you want to zoom in and out on your photos. You have your replay button here to look through the pictures you just taken, and your regular old menu button. D-pad so you can select around. Same stuff per usual. You have another custom button up here, and also it double duties as a lock button. So if you take a picture that you really like and you don't want to accidentally delete it, just hit the lock button, locks it, not going to delete it. And then if you want the easy way to format your camera cards and you don't want to go through the menus or My Menus or anything, you have the trash button here. so you can go through and delete pictures individually, or if you want to format the whole thing, press and hold the trash button, and the other button up here, your ISO, press and hold, and we'll ask if you want to format your memory card. Press slot 2, so that's where the card's in, delete. There you go, ready to go. Completely clean card. And if you accidentally bump 2 buttons at the same time, not that you would, you still have to confirm that you want to delete it. So really not going to accidentally delete your cards. And per usual, the whole back screen's touchscreen. The menus are touchscreen. Nothing really new there, unexpected. So real quick, we're going to talk about the FTZ2 adapter from Nikon, 2nd gen FTZ. It's pretty much the exact same as the previous gen, nothing crazy. The only difference is you don't have a bulky bit here at the bottom, so you don't have like that weird tripod socket thing. I did not like it personally. I thought it was kind of a wasted thing. Not many people really used it, I don't think. So we'll put this on the camera. And now every single F-mount lens will fit. Not all of them will have autofocus. If it takes screw drive, it will not work. Now what I do like about it is you can use your vertical grip, your normal grip. That tripod foot does not get in the way anymore. Super awesome. So then whenever you go to put any lens you want on, and you're holding your camera, it feels a lot better. Now you can use the FTZ1 on the Z9. It does fit. I had one, I put it on there, it works. It just really limits your vertical grip hand holding capability. You pretty much have to hold it like this. You can't really curl your fingers in. It sucks. So get a Z9, spring the extra 200 bucks, get the 2nd gen adapter. So with the firmware 2.0 that just came out for the Z9, you can now shoot NRAW. It's a special type of video codec and stuff. I'm not going to shoot it. I'm not going to go through and edit it. I'm not really all about that whole thing. I'm probably just going to shoot typical 10-bit 8K video, 4K, 120, and that's good enough for me. If you need that extra editing ability, the camera can do it as long as you have the computer to do it. And I've seen examples of it. It looks flawless. It's just not the workflow for me. Like, I am a dad, I'm a husband, I work full time. I don't have the time to sit there and edit for hours on end just doing color and stuff like that. That's not for me, so I'm gonna stick to the 10-bit and take the easy way out. But hey, if it works for you, more power to you. I really wanna see what you come out with. But if you're like me and you only wanna do 10-bit, or if you wanna dabble in NRAW, I highly suggest that you take a look at Angelbird's AV Pro SE series of cards. This is the 512 gig one. It was $190 on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description for that. This is probably the best bang for buck CF Express Type B card out there right now. I probably wouldn't look for anything else. And it covers everything that NRAW would put out of this camera. And obviously 8-bit and 10-bit, easy. And the rest of the review we got here, we're going to be using this cool little thing. It is the ZCam Ipman. I'm probably saying that wrong and slaughtering it. It's the ZCam Ipman Gemini. It's super cool. It goes on the hot shoe of your camera. You put the bracket on like this. This plugs into your cell phone. This HDMI plugs into the side of the camera, and it will record what the EVF of the camera sees. The only negative of that I found is it doesn't show the flashing around the border of the EVF showing that I'm taking pictures, but you can see the autofocus moving around. You can see everything else except for the icon of me shooting. So that's probably the cheapest, easiest thing to get to record EVF if you really want it. And plus you can use it for doubling as a webcam, plug it into your computer and all that. So for 60 bucks, super cool technology if you ask me. A lot better than buying a Atomos just so you can record an EVF for, you know, $400 or $500. So in the next couple parts of the video here, we're going to go over examples from different events, different sporting events and whatnot, show you what the autofocus to do, show you examples after the fact, show the EVF, everything there is about it, give you my opinion on it, and we're just going to have some good old-fashioned fun with this camera. I've been excited for this for months. Cannot wait. So you can tell from the previous segment of the unboxing, walk around the camera, all that stuff. That was done on my Samsung S20 FE. The color quality wasn't great, the video quality was it was okay. But it's kind of amazing what cell phones can do. But if you spend a couple $100 on a decent hybrid camera, a mirrorless camera, like the quality you get out of this trounces what you will get in a phone. So if you're serious about video, I highly suggest you spend the money and get an actual mirrorless camera, like a Sony ZV-1, a ZV-10, or a Z50, ZFC. You know, Canon's got a new lineup, the R7, R10 just came out. So if you're serious about video, looking to spend money into an actual camera. And as you can tell, you know, the Z9 just trounces the hell out of the Samsung cell phone, which really isn't much of a challenge, I suppose. So here in a second, we're going to get on to the different video resolutions and see how they look compared to each other in sharpness. Okay, so real quick before we get downpoured on here, we're going to do a little sharpness test of the different resolutions you can get on the camera here. Right now we're shooting in standard 4K 30. This is not subsampled from 8K, just straight regular 4K 30. Now I got a little piece of paper here. This is just from a warranty card from one of my pieces of equipment. So we're going to crop in here and post and see how clear that looks. We're going to do the same thing for some other resolutions, and we're going to see which one looks the best, and we'll be able to tell what's good, what isn't. Here we are in 4K 30, oversampled from 8K. If you want to pause the video, see what you see how it looks on the paper, have at it. This is a 1.5x crop, so we're looking at about 75mm equivalent, 4K 30. We're at 8K 30. This is going to be downsampled in post, so we'll see how well that works in the comparison. Because we're only exporting in 4K. 8K would make this video absolutely huge, and it would probably take 6 years to render on YouTube. So this is straight 8K 30. We're about 10 feet away from the camera. I have a tape measure on the ground here, you can't really see it. And then also we're at 50mm on the Nikon 24-70 f4S lens. At f4, 1/60th of a second shutter angle, and I believe about 64 or 100 ISO. One of the bonuses of shooting in 8K is you can have different camera angles from one lens and one camera. So you can crop in tight one spot over here, crop in on the product, whatever you want. It still gives you a lot of resolution. That way you have different angles in post using one camera, one lens. If you're a one-man band like me, it makes your life so much easier. So for fun, we're shooting in 1080p 30 right now, full frame, not crop. Probably looks kind of mush compared to everything else if you crop in and try and do anything special with that. I will have to bend down to get in the frame at 10 feet. So here we are, 1080p 30, crop mode, 1.5x. Here we are at 2.3x crop, 1080p 120. Very tight. Don't really know why anyone would you shoot this camera at 1080p, but here's an example of the sharpness you would expect from it. And now we have the standard 4K 120 in full frame. Now the camera will subsample anything under 4K 30, including 4K 30, from 8K in full frame, but not 120p. So this is a nice little surprise from the wildlife people. Get myself in the frame. This is a 4K 120 on crop mode. Crop mode in 4K 120 is a 2.3x crop, so we're a little over 100 millimeters in this 50 millimeter setting on the lens. So just a real quick recap on the different resolutions and sharpnesses for video. Really anything that's 1080p gonna be mush. Anything 4K is gonna look nice even in crop. And anything in 8K is gonna look nice, and it's gonna give you more cropping area for, like, you know, product videos or anything you want to really tighten in on with using one camera, one lens kind of thing. So as long as you shoot something in 4K or 8K, it's gonna look nice on this camera. I use multiple different types of charts, graphs, different things to try and find different sharpnesses. Honestly, not much of a difference whenever you're 10 feet away and you crop in at 200%. So pretty pleased, to be honest. So not much really to be surprised about. So here we have the stock camera microphone test. Really not great. It's good for ambient. But if you really do anything meaningful, don't use the standard microphone that's built into the camera. This is a shotgun microphone, the Deity D3 Pro V mic, bright mic. Worlds better than what you get on the standard camera. Okay, so we're going to go through the quick menu here. We're going to look through all the different menus in the camera, what I have set for the I menu for photo and video, and my menu at the bottom. Scroll all the way to the top. We're going to start with the photo shooting menu. Now we have the extended menu banks on, storage folder, file naming, make that your name. For your slot 2, I have mine for overflow. That way if the first card fills up, the second card picks up where the first one left off. For image area is going to be full frame. And then also for the crop alert, I have that turned on so that whenever you are in crop mode, in the top right you see it flashing. So then we'll keep going. Image quality on RAW. You can obviously do any of the other versions of that. I just do RAW. Recording of RAW. I have a high efficiency star that gives you a little bit more space on your card, and it's pretty much lossless. Like, I haven't noticed a difference between this and the regular old RAW that it had before in the previous Nikon cameras. And the high efficiency with no star gives you much smaller files, but you know, not really worth that. I think it loses a bit depth. Just from what I've seen, no real testing to scientifically back that up. So we get the high efficiency star, and it pretty much gives you an unlimited buffer. So we'll just do this real quick. Just sit there and hold the button down if you wanted. Yeah, like, it doesn't really run out of buffer. For ISO sensitivity settings, I have this on manual, so you can't really change a whole lot here. But if you had ISO auto on, you can change the maximum. I'd probably put that about 12,800. But we're going to turn it back off. If you want to turn it back on while you're shooting, all you got to do is press the ISO button and then scroll your front wheel, and it changes it to ISO auto and back and forth. If you want to switch between auto ISO and regular manual ISO. White balance, we have that specific color temperature, 5500K, that way it doesn't change between shots in a burst. Standard picture control, really nothing there, that way it doesn't change in between bursts. It's kind of annoying when it does that, it makes it hard to edit a line of photos together. Color space, sRGB, don't really do Adobe because I don't have a screen for that. And pretty much the whole internet runs off sRGB, so not really worth it in my opinion. Active delighting is off. Long exposure noise reduction is on. So if you do like a long exposure landscape or anything like that, the camera will take a second shot and even out the noise and give you a better image, less noise in it. High ISO noise reduction, leave that as normal. Vignetting control, normal. Diffraction, compensation on. Auto distortion control on. That way if your lens supports it and the camera knows what the lens is, it'll put the profile on the picture as you take it. You don't have to use a third-party program like Lightroom or anything. Photo flickering reduction, I have that off, but if you shoot venues and stuff, you should probably turn that on. Metering, I have this programmed to one of the function buttons in the front, so I don't really change anything there. That way you press the middle function button on the front and you can change everything as you need it. Focus mode, AFC, AF continuous. I have that programmed to the record button in photo mode, so you press and hold record button, and you can change it to manual focus, autofocus single, continuous. Area modes, all these different types of area modes you can have on here selected. Don't really mess with that because I have it programmed to record button again, and then front wheel you can cycle through all the different ones. AF subject detection, so if you're taking a picture of a person and they're holding a pet or cat, you know, bird, whatever, you don't want the camera to automatically go to the pet's face. You have to go in here and turn that off right there, or just make it select just people, just animals, whatever. But I don't really do pet photography or people photography, so I'm just gonna leave it on auto. Not something I really mess with, so for wildlife I kind of just leave that off, but for landscapes, very useful. Multiple exposures, I'll leave that off. HDR overlay, I'll leave that off. Interval time shooting, turn that off as well. Time-lapse video, I have this on the I menu, so if I want to use it, it's there. Focus shift shooting for macro photography, that's very useful. It's really cool to do. You can use this and have it take X number of shots. Usually I only have it set to like 20. Focus depth, usually put on like 3. And leave the exposure lock on, that way whenever you're doing a macro, it'll pretty much keep the same exposure and it won't change between shots. Then you put that in a Lightroom and then you import it over into Photoshop and you can stack it all and make one sharp image. Really great for macro. So we're going to go over the video recording. Pretty much all the same thing. First couple spots here. Video type, you can do 10-bit, 8-bit, 8-bit 264, NRAW 12-bit, ProRes RAW high quality HQ 12-bit, ProRes RAW 422 HQ 10-bit. But as I mentioned in the intro of the video, I only do 256 10-bit because I don't got the time in the world to do all that. Frame size, frame rate, you can pick that from the My I menu. Video quality, don't shoot NRAW, but we'll just leave it on high. Image quality, or image area, same as the photo. Extended oversampling, you want that on so that if you're shooting 4K 30 or less, it will oversample from 8K and give you a sharper image for your output. ISO sensitivity, we're not going to mess with that since we use manual ISO. White balance, you always want to make sure that this is on the color that you pick, usually 5500 for me. Picture control is standard. All these other options if you wanted to. And these weird, you know, examples that give you different versions. Basically, it's like a LUT or like a, you know, a preset for your video. Not a fan of that. So we'll leave it on standard. You can shoot HLG if you want to, but I don't right now, so that's why it is off. High noise reduction, also normal. Vignetting, diffraction, same as photo, video flicker, auto. Metering, you can also change that with the iMenu or the programmed function keys. Focus mode, autofocus full time. You want that so that as soon as you hit the record button, it's automatically changing its focus. But if you put it on autofocus continuous, it will only really focus if you press and hold the shutter button down. Not really useful for video. So AFF is what you need. Subject detection options, same as before. For the lens I have on right now is the 150 to 600. The autofocus, or the VR is controlled by the switch on the camera, or on the lens I mean. So right now switch it off, switch it on. You can't really change it because the switch is on the lens. Microphone sensitivity, I always put this on auto because I'm lazy. I usually use shotgun mics or off-camera microphones like I'm using right now. Frequency response, leave as voice because usually I'm recording voice. When noise on, get your headphone volume. Time code, if you have another device that can record time codes so you can easily sync up in your editing. External record for the HDMI, I have that off since I don't really have anything for that. Custom settings bank for the focusing. We're just going to skim through this real quick to the points that actually matter for wildlife. Make sure all points are on. For me, I use the shutter button, but if you want back button focusing, use AF on only. So if you only want certain things to pop up in your cycle for autofocus, this is where you deselect the other stuff you don't really need. Like for me, I really only use single point, pinpoint, dynamic area medium, 3D tracking, and auto area. Anything else I really have no use for, so I just turn it all off. That way you can cycle through your autofocus settings faster. And then we're going to go to shooting display. Make sure your virtual horizon is on. Personally, I like type A. Helps you get a level shot. And then right here is where you turn on the 120 frames per second, or 120 FPS, 120 hertz. Have you want to view it for the viewfinder. If you want to save battery, turn it off. But I'll tell you right now, 120 hertz refresh rate on the EVF is butter for wildlife shooting. And then in controls, this is where you can do your custom menus, iMenu. For photo, custom controls, it's where it has a map of all the buttons on the camera. You can program all the different buttons on there to whatever you want. And then in video, same thing, customize your iMenu for video. Same thing, custom controls all the way through. Make sure you turn on your zebra patterning. And make sure you have the red record frame indicator so that you can tell when you're recording. It's nothing more annoying than thinking you're recording, do a thing, and then you're not. It's kind of a pain. Then your playback. Really not a whole lot going on here. Make sure picture review is off, so every time you take a picture it doesn't show up and interrupt your shooting. It's kind of a pain. And then this is where you program in the information under the setup menu for any adapted old antique-like lenses. So if you're shooting on like a Canon FD50 1.8, you go into the non-CPU lens data. Lens number 1, focal length, will make that 50 because that's what it is. It's a 50 millimeter. Maximum aperture is 1.8. Make sure you hit OK. And now whenever you attach that lens, make sure number 1 is selected, and it will make the IBIS work on that old lens, and it'll be stabilized. So super cool for that. And then sensor shield behavior power off. Make sure that's on. So if you shut the camera off, it'll close that blast door, blast shield in front of the sensor to protect it. And then clean image sensor, I have this automatic cleaning, clean at shutdown. And if you want, you can do the voice memo on the back of it so you can take a picture. There's a microphone on the back of the camera you can talk into and leave notes on your pictures if you want to. Make sure your autofocus beep is off. No one wants to hear that. It's the most annoying thing ever. Silent mode, I have that mapped with buttons. We're not going to worry about that. location data. This is if you want the GPS in the camera to keep recording where you take pictures. Usually I turn that off, but if we're hiking in an unknown place that I'm not really familiar with, I'll turn that on. That way it'll map out all the different locations we shot at. So whenever I get home and I edit everything, and you look in Lightroom on the map, it'll show where everything was shot, and it's easier to identify locations so you don't forget anything like that. Then this is the section where if you want to, you know, log into your Wi-Fi and everything on your network at home or wherever you're at, you can offload your stuff that way. But for myself, I just use a card reader. It's so much more convenient for what I do. So this is my menu. This is a customizable menu. So on here I added focus shift shooting, so it's easy to access. My battery information. So I've been using the same charge now for 2 weeks. I've got 23% left. I took 600 photos in 2 weeks. So for not touching it most of the time, it's doing pretty good. And I've also had 120 Hertz refresh rate on the EVF the whole time as well. You can format the memory card. I added that. This is where you add items. You just pick the menu and add from. You could change the listing order if you wanted. Don't really have a whole lot on there. So this is the regular EVF. This is the I menu for photo. So I have a standard picture control, my white balance, image quality, image size is grayed out because I'm on RAW, AF mode, AF type, HDR, multiple exposure for HDR, focus peaking. This is for if you want to do 120 FPS for JPEG in photo mode. VR is on because the switch is on the lens. Then if you want to do time-lapse video using photos. So here's the screen for video. We will hit the I menu. So for this I have HLG. Then you have microphone sensitivity, AF type again for your focus type. Really this is your AF type. And then you have your zebra patterns, your full frame or crop or 2.3 crop. If you put in DX, then you go over here to 4K 120. You can see we're in 2.3x crop doing 4K 120. Focus peaking, meter type, vibration, and electronic VR. But as mentioned before, it's all mapped to the front of the camera on the function buttons. That's the whole menu on there. Kind of sped through it. I honestly think that if you get this camera, you need to go through and read your manual. Don't skimp on it. Save a PDF version to your phone, so that way if you're out in the wild and you're out there taking pictures, you're like, man, how do I do this? Why is HLG grayed out? You just go on your phone, look on the PDF, search HLG, and you'll find it right away, and it'll just help you learn it a lot easier than just fumbling through it trying to figure out what you're doing. So in the next few segments, we're going to do out in the wild kind of shooting. So hopefully you enjoy some racing and aviation. we are at the Pittsburgh Race Complex in Wampum, Pennsylvania. And as you can hear, they're doing their practice runs right now for Sunday's race. So it's a perfect opportunity to try out the Z9's autofocus for autosports and autofocus detection for subjects. So today we're going to start out with the 70-200. We're going to end up putting a filter on here probably, most likely a CPL or an ND, so I can get down to base ISO with a slow shutter speed. So the cars we'll be photographing today and getting some video of are the F1000 2000 class. They have about 175 horsepower. They weigh like 800 to 1,000 pounds, so ridiculous power to weight ratio. But we're going to be shooting with the 120 Hz viewfinder for this, and we're going to see how many shots we can get on a battery for one charge. We're starting with a full battery, full charge. We'll be starting with the KF Concept variable ND, not the most amazing filter for optical clarity, but it's good enough for the moment. And it's an 82 and it's going on a 77mm thread, so we got to put an adapter on there. And we can't forget about the ZCam recorder so we can see the EVF as we go. So we'll see how this turns out, and honestly, I know it's going to be awesome and amazing bangers. I know the AF is going to be great, but it's just fun, you know? It's just fun. So let's see what we get. My mic on, but we're going to try some 120 FPS JPEG. That 5-second burst was over 400 photos in JPEG. We'll see how much we can fit in the buffer. You can fit about 800 to 1,000 shots in the buffer using the Angelbird SE 512 gig CF Express Type B card. The sun's come out, real heavy now, no overcast clouds for the moment, and I can still see the EVF extremely well. It's a pleasant surprise compared to the Z7 II.
I got the cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gone live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad, I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad, doing no cap. Only God wants you, better go live it up, cash in the bag. back, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad,
Yeah.
baby, I'm bad.
I just wanna stay bad, stay mad, chip on my shoulder cause they treat me like an outcast. I ain't gonna take that, stay back, I'll be swinging hard till the hits come in all caps. I ain't gonna lay back, pray that someone's gonna help me, ain't nobody like that. I ain't gonna wait, that's all fact, give me one shot and I'll never get the throne back. I'm sick of being cautious, I'ma go cause some pain, can't stop this. I'ma steal everybody's lane, cut a shoplift. Sick of hearing everyone complain when they thoughtless. Taste the pain, it's like candy canes. It makes me go change into a better frame, into a better name. Society's insane, we all live for fame, yeah. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gon' live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad, I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad, do it no cap. Only got one, so you better go live it up. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad, baby, I'm bad. Star in this life, gon' live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad, I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad, do it no cap. Only got one, so you better go live it up. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad, baby, I'm bad.
So real quick, a wrap up here at the raceway. Over 2 hours, we shot about 3,000 photos, probably 7 to 10 minutes of 4K 120, probably 5 minutes of 8K, and we've used about 25% of the battery. We have 75% left. Now I used the autofocus area auto for the subject detection the whole time. I didn't change it to 3D, didn't change it to dynamic or single point or anything like that. Kept on the same thing. Shot 20 frames per second raw, a couple shots of 120 JPEG, and honestly, they're just looking through the back screen. There's so many tack sharp photos out of the 2,000 or 3,000 I took here. It's gonna take ages to go through. So if you want to shoot this camera, I highly recommend you keep it to 10 to 15 frames per second, short bursts, unless you enjoy going through thousands of photos at a sports racing event like this. And it was at 120 hertz EVF, so going to the air show, really not worried about running out of battery. There is obviously zero overheating. It is a 75-degree day. It is actually, it feels hotter than it is. A couple times clouds pass overhead, give you some nice lighting, but it's pretty harsh for the most part. One thing I did notice though, if you're shooting 8K video, the EVF seems to get choppy, and I don't think it's the EVF's fault. I think it's just because of shooting 8K at 30 frames and the refresh rate on the EVF is 120 frames, so that frame matching doesn't quite work out too well. At 4K 120, it looks awesome. 4K 30, it's okay. Whenever you play it back, it still looks a little weird in the EVF, so that's probably just the frame matching, not really the files or the autofocus or anything like that. On to what I've been really looking forward to, Aviation. We're going to be adapting the Sigma 150 to 600C with the FTZ2. Still waiting on Nikon's 200 to 600 to come out, whenever that happens. So short and sweet, we're here at the air show. And we're really just going to use shutter priority, cap the ISO at like 10,000, which I highly doubt we're going to need. And really just going to show some EVF photos, videos, slow motion. So we'll see how it goes. Super excited. I've been waiting 3 years to do this.
Searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless, a sea of the aimless. I don't wanna be one of the nameless. I'ma wake up with the mindset that one day I'm gonna make it, and I don't think I'll be fine if I don't break my limitations. Don't try to stop me, I exist to write my own story. I'll make a decision if I want some peace or if I want the glory. Don't want a life that is complacent or possibly boring. Just want a life that is worth every day exploring. My whole life I just wanted someone who would notice me. My whole life I just wanted to be somebody to be. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, 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 I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, 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 I just wanna be great. Yeah, yeah, This is a statement to appreciate all that is vacant. It's just for the taking. If you make up your mind, you can take it. I'm never complacent. I would work in a mansion or basement. Yeah, there's no replacement for persistence. It's a patience. Yeah, in this life, I wanna be soaring to feel sun inside when it's pouring. I'll fight till anxiety is boring. I'm so sick of my mind's extortion. My whole life I just wanted someone who would notice me. My whole life I just wanted to be somebody to be. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, 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 I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, yeah,
And this is the part 1 of this little series of reviews. Part 2 is going to be about wildlife and nature and landscapes and stuff like that. So that'll come out, who knows when, a couple weeks, a couple months after this. I've been working on this specific review portion, part 1, for about a month and a half. Probably the only thing that I really didn't like about the camera is when you switch from photo to video. If you are in shutter priority in photo and you switch to video, it keeps shutter priority in the video. So if you want to have one for shutter priority and one for full manual, you're going to have to program in some banks for that, just so you can switch between banks real easy. But I don't really do that, so that's something I'm going to have to learn to do. And that's probably really the only gripe of a negative I can think of for the camera. Really not much else to really complain about, because even as you can see in the aviation portion at 60 Hertz EVF, we had amazing battery life. Probably could have done 120 and been perfectly fine, which is awesome, because the batteries on this are very, very expensive. They're like $240 a piece. So if you've enjoyed this and all the different parts of the videos and photos that I've taken with this and showed as a review, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel. Driving for that 1,000 mark. Really appreciate that. If you love this video, share it around, show your friends. If you have any questions, drop them down below. I'll get back to you. And if you have any ideas for things to include in the next part of this review series, let me know and I'll try and squeeze it in there. But until next time, good luck out there and happy shooting. I'll see you.
Losing time, I'm fading fast. I just wanna make it last. Try to let go of the past. I close my eyes, embrace the blast. Sleepless nights and headaches stack. Restlessness to hell and back. What's my purpose? What do I grab? A slippery surface, a heart attack. And sometimes you just gotta believe there's something that'll give you relief. There's something that'll have what you need. What you need. We're broken, it's tragic. We're not all elastic, but maybe there's magic. Believe you could have it. And I know of sadness, the anxious and panic, the infinite vastness of all